President Bola Tinubu has directed the implementation of all recommendations made by the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee across ministries, agencies, and departments of the federal government. President Tinubu gave the directive when he received the report on the quick win achievement of the committee led by Chairman Taiwo Oyedele. TVC News State House correspondent Femi Akonde reports.
Good morning and good afternoon.
President Tinubu's Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms have returned with a preliminary report that contains crucial recommendations of ensuring an efficient and effective tax administration in the country.
A few months ago, Mr. President set up the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform, and part of our remit is that we divide our work into short, medium and long term.
Now, the committee's assignment to reform the tax administration has gotten to a critical stage, which will include addressing multiplicity of taxes and working with the subnationals to achieve a single-digit tax at all levels of government.
Speaking to traders, Matan, and they said to us, people selling pure water in the market they call it tickets, 7 tickets every single day. Why should someone who is just trying to, hawk pure water to keep body and soul together have to pay 7 taxes on a daily basis? It doesn't make a lot of sense to us.
President Tinubu's spokesman says the framework for the implementation of the tax committee's recommendations has already been activated. The president have also given clear directives in this regard, and this will be coordinated by his special advisor on policy.
The president directed the special advisor to the president on policy coordination to liaise with the secretary to the government of the federation and the chairman of the tax policy review committee to ensure that the recommendations of the committee are swiftly and immediately implemented across all ministries, departments, and agencies of the federal government.
The Presidential Committee understands that reforming the country's tax laws may not be easy as pie. Introducing tax reliefs will give more applause to the federal government. But Nigerians are still curious to see how President Bola Tinubu's administration intends to achieve an 18% tax to GDP ratio within 3 years, without putting a strain on small and medium-scale businesses, and also how the monies generated will be used to work for growth and development. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Abuja.
Special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Ajurin Gelale, joins me on the news to discuss the president's directive on the implementation of the Tax Reforms Committee's report. But what exactly is the significance of this report now in efforts to reforming the nation's tax system?
Thank you very much, my sister. Good evening to you. If you can just please repeat your question. It did not come through clearly.
All right. So I was asking about the significance of this report that has now been submitted in efforts by the federal government to reform the nation's tax system.
Indeed, it is very, very important. It's indicative of the fact that during the inauguration of the Tax Policy Review Committee by His Excellency President Bola Tinubu, he was very clear that the initiative to reform the nation's tax code to realize more revenues for federal public sector expenditure is going to be based on verifiable timelines and benchmarks. And he has kept to that by today receiving the committee in the company of the acting chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Zach Adedeji, where they were able to give an account through their 30-day quick win report, which essentially unveiled what they have been able to achieve so far in relation to the larger plan and to the larger mandate of the committee. You would recall that the mandate given to the committee by His Excellency Mr. President during its inauguration was that within a 3-year period, Nigeria would move from its present status of about 6% tax to GDP up to about 18% tax to GDP ratio in the next 3 years. That is based on a phased approach, an incremental approach that would essentially see a 30-day review, which has been concluded with this quick win report, leading to a 6-month review at which the committee would have had to achieve certain benchmarks. And then, of course, the 1-year review at which the committee would have been able to fully implement all of the various reforms that the committee had set forth upon its inauguration. So we're on course, we're on target, and I think it's important to note that when we talk about the amelioration of some of the difficult conditions facing our people right now as a result of economic challenges brought by some of the very necessary economic reforms that President Bola Tinubu has put in place in terms of the removal of the fuel subsidy, in terms of the unification of the nation's foreign exchange rates, that one of the areas where Mr. President has brought some relief without many people reporting on it or talking about is the fact that Mr. President quickly moved to suspend certain taxes, such as the excise duty on telecommunication services, such as the suspension of the green tax on single-use plastics, as well as a delay in the implementation of the Finance Act 2023 and the Customs Excise Order of 2023 as well. Just to ensure that taxes that would
all of those are known, of course, and Nigerians, are aware. Of course, the media has reported that. But I'm curious because this is actually an ambitious goal, 18% tax to GDP ratio. It's quite ambitious. And how exactly does government hope to achieve this within a 3-year period?
Well, one of the major efforts is going to ensure that we minimize the role of non-state actors in tax collection. As the acting chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Zach Adedeji, said today, we are currently in a situation in which even at the base level, the bottom rung of the economic ladder in the country, you're having micro enterprises, small enterprises, and even the man and woman conducting informal enterprise in our markets being subjected to several taxes within a single day at a time when people are struggling just to keep food on the table. So I think the key thing is to, first of all, minimize the number of taxes that are being applied, because the committee was very clear today in their report to Mr. President that the more they have found in their investigations, both overseas and locally, that the more taxes you have in place, the less revenue you'll collect. Because when you have a multiplicity of unnecessary taxation, what you end up having is more leakage through the leveraging of non-state actors and consultants and various people that get involved when you have multiple streams of taxation, instead of having a more streamlined, more minimalist approach to taxation that streamlines it within fewer taxes, but in clearer and transparent collection processes. That's what this administration is pressing forward with. But we also want to make sure that our subnationals are carried along. This is not going to be an only federal approach. We're carrying along the local governments, we're carrying along the states, and we're going to ensure that through automation and ensure that through the widening of the tax net, we're able to hit the tax to GDP target without having to unduly burden our micro enterprises, our small enterprises, and even our large industry. If we expand the tax net, we don't have to be looking to tax
how this report of the committee would be implemented, considering that directive from Mr. President for all MDAs to actually get to work on it. Special advisor to President Buhari, President Tinubu rather now, on media and publicity, Ajurin Gelali. Thank you for talking to us on TVC News at 7.
Always a privilege. Thank you for having me.